Okay, hey Frank, thanks for joining us today. Excited to talk about you and your business.
All right, thanks, Carter.
Yeah, so what is it you do? What's your business? How long you been doing it?
The company's M6Connect Corporation. We're a software company, and been at it since 2014, so about a little over about 9 years, I guess.
Okay, when you say software company, what are you working on?
We really started in corporate. Most of my career is at companies like Pfizer, Allegiant Health, hospital systems, so pharmaceuticals and healthcare. And what I struggled with in my career was just having applications that worked for my department. So it was kind of I guess a weird process, but I worked at several different companies, but kind of in the same department. So I was facilities, construction, real estate, engineering. I was in that department. Those guys over there. And that's kind of one of the things I really learned in working in corporate is not everybody knows what the other departments do, particularly in big companies. You kind of see them in the hall, you're changing meetings, you say, hey, they're from accounting, and what do they do over there anyway? I mean, how many times does the cash change? I mean, what are you doing? Don't we have bank accounts? Do you manage bank accounts? What do you do? And I've always been interested in that, just, how does a company work? And so that really became something that, in my career, I was building. So I was a capital guy. And so I was always part of these groups that were responsible for executing the strategic plan. And, here's a bunch of capital, go spend it, building manufacturing lines, infectious disease research buildings, hospitals, data centers. I did about $3 billion in capital in my career for about 23 years. And long story short, the software that we could use in our departments just wasn't very good. And we always resorted to using spreadsheets. And now that I'm, so that was early in my career, and hadn't started a software company yet, didn't even have the thought in my twinkle in the eye. But you go from one company to the next company, you get promoted, and then you end up doing the same thing. Like, hey, let's have some process procedures, and I develop a software again. So about 5 moved all over the country, and always created my own software for the department because it's so much more efficient. And later, now what I learned as I started the business is that it's really the same problem in every department. I would ask you, Carter, how many spreadsheets do you work on?
Too many would be the fair answer.
Yeah, you got 2 or 3, 5 spreadsheets, right?
Yeah, that's by 10 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got a couple of different applications, 2 or 3 maybe, and you're logging into them. And, welcome to what it's like to be a paper pusher at work. You have your logins and sticky notes and your spreadsheets, and that's how small companies start. Well, then you get bigger company, you got all the money, and then Sharp Healthcare San Diego has 1,300 software applications. Yeah, it doesn't get better, it gets worse, right? And then every department has those. So one of the apps that we built is like an application just to keep track of all the applications at a company. It's called IT Application Portfolio Management. And I'm like, God, IT. So IT's managing all of their applications on a spreadsheet.
Right.
Why are you doing that? Capital projects people are managing hundreds of millions of dollars in some of these bigger companies in spreadsheets. So we built software for those department needs.
Okay. So you do customized applications for whatever the business needs.
Yeah. And our tagline is software the way you work. We've really gotten better at it, but we're not just building any custom application anymore, because what we're finding is, everybody has the need for an application that's custom, but you want to find that person, that individual SME, subject matter expert in their space, that's who you want to build the application with,
Bang for your buck from it.
Well, yeah, you get someone that has a lot of experience. Like on our side, from our vantage point, the software part of it's easy. It's really getting that information out of the subject matter expert. So our process, basically, we just start with, when we're building a custom app, we say, show us your spreadsheets, show us how they work, show us why you go to this one, when you go to this one, log into your application, show us that, we record it. And then about 2 weeks later, we show them a clickable solution, and they're like, how could you build that fast? Now, it doesn't have reports, and it doesn't have the workflow approval type stuff.
Mhm.
But, particularly in a small company like yours, for example, it's like, imagine everybody logging in to the same one login,
Yeah.
and everything's all connected.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. So next question there. Who's the first person that comes to mind when you think about success?
It may be too cliche, but Elon Musk, he's one of the classics. I think what Steve Jobs did was great. I think all of the tech people, I think, are great because, they did something that, I think engineers in general aren't good at articulating a marketing plan or sales or that, but they're really good at the creating the engine, Yeah. And but then, so to me, it's very difficult to do in the face of people that don't understand what you're doing, so I think that success is doing something that is purposeful and meaningful, that ultimately can help the most people possible.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that about Musk, how he filters all his decisions through his end goal, right? I think his current one is what gets us closer to a civilization on Mars.
Right. I mean, that's
filtering
it. But in general, I have some insight from, I've never met with him, but people I know have. And, he also wants to solve the right problem.
Mhm.
Like, hey, here's the problem with electric cars, and blah blah blah. Well, what is the problem with electric cars? How are electric cars sold, and are you getting into electric car market? What's the problem in the electric car market?
Mhm.
And he tells great stories about this, but what he realized early on is the problem in electric cars is they got to go farther than 200 miles. Like, so whoever goes the farthest is going to win in electric cars.
Right.
And, so he chose the problem. The problem is batteries. Let's work on the battery, and so I really believe that that's the critical part of any entrepreneur, is to figure out, I mean, we're all looking for purpose and destiny and all the wonderful things, but I mean, ultimately, you have to set your sights on something you can achieve, and that where you feel like you can add the most value to other people. And I think that's just the general mindset of all companies and all people. There's exceptions, but is to provide the most benefit to mankind that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Identify a complex problem that you can break down into a solution you can own.
Yeah, and that you'll love doing, like
Yeah.
maybe for the rest of your life. And that's such a hard thing for people in their 30s and 40s. But anyone to figure it out, you're
Right.
chasing that your whole life. But I think that, getting in the right quadrant of your purpose, and getting experience within that quadrant, because, I have a young son, and he's in his 20s, and you watch, I want to do this. And I'm like, do you want to do that forever? Like, well, no, I just want to do it right now. Okay, well, then do it right now. Go get the experience. He says, you think? I'm like, all experience is great experience.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and
It's
you
something that can't be
don't
taken.
know, like there's something you pick up along the way. So I really think that, if you're someplace more than 4 years, it's okay. There's certain times in your life where you find the right spot, and you're in it and you love it. So, hey, don't turn your nose up at that. But there's also a point where, am I learning anything else?
Yeah, always be growing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So as we're coming out of the COVID period and also kind of looking forward to a potential recession going on, were there any business changes you had to make regarding COVID?
We made a few, but the biggest thing we did is it really helped us stay committed to one of our biggest goals, which is our platform. So the new platform that we're developing, like I said, we're developing applications for, departmental needs and all businesses and things. But we also realized, like, how do we deliver these apps and, not just create a bunch of apps that people have to log into? Can't they be integrated in a platform? And so with that platform, we started realizing that no one's going to want to go back to work. I mean, let's be honest. No one wants to go back to work unless you hate your spouse or you got young kids at home and it's too noisy, but generally speaking, people want more freedom, and that's never going to end. So our platform, we call it the M6 platform, and it's really built in a Web3 mindset, which is Web3 is really decentralized in the concept of what we have today, where the data is being controlled by Facebook, Google, etc. A decentralized pure Web3 platform is what we're building. It's the big vision, and it's one login. Imagine Zoom, Facebook, and all your apps and spreadsheets had a baby, and that's in one login. That's
very eclectic login.
Yeah, that's our M6 platform. So it's literally a digital environment where you can just call a colleague, call a vendor, call a customer, work with them, but you're primarily working in a feed. Your monthly reports due. Monthly reports in our system are, it's kind of like answering a survey in Facebook.
Right.
There, I just finished a monthly report and you never left the feed.
Nice.
So everything integrated.
Yeah. All in one stop shop. Well, how do you see
Yeah. So COVID wise, I kind of diverted there, but COVID wise, what it proved to us is that companies will survive if people work at home. Like, it fast forwarded our generation, I don't know, maybe 20 years. Because everybody could see, a lot of people were moving to work from home, and I worked from home for a while. First time I did it, I was probably 46, and it was weird. You work all the time, you work your ass off, and it's 7 o'clock, and it's like, you missed dinner. Yeah, but I had to get this done. Why? Because I needed to kind of prove I did something today. So it's kind of weird, and I worked all day, but you have this sense of like, I work from home. I don't want anybody to think I'm taking advantage of the company. So I think people tend to work harder, and they tend to, do that. But that shouldn't be, companies, it should be easier to work and play. And so that's where our M6 platform really, it got legs, in part because of COVID, because we could see like, this is not going to end.
Right. Yeah, I think it was Marcus Buckingham who said it advanced us at least 20, 25 years in the span of about 4 weeks.
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I think politically we went backwards, but in terms of everything else, I feel like people can see that, like, the digital, doing business digitally is what's going to happen.
Right. And do you think that would lead to, at least what I'm seeing is it's going to lead to more outcomes based hiring as opposed to hours based hiring?
I think people have a hard time getting away from time. But I believe that it's going to create more autonomy. So the answer would be yes, because it will create more autonomy. I think it's going to create, I think in the next 10 years, we will have 20 Uber type apps, spanning all industries, and those service-based people, you know, it's like if you provide great service as an individual or home residential, let's say you're a tech and you're top tech and you can basically do anything when it comes to a sprinkler system, for example. I think is ripe, you know, for Uber service, you know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Particularly in that labor side. When you get in the, I mean, a lot of people are pushing creatives, the creative apps that are out there. I don't like them. They're not built very well. But you know, it allows people to showcase their work, but the way the work is scoped and done, it doesn't, it's not very well. But I think service-based industry is definitely going to move in that direction, and fast.
Awesome. What would you say, since you started this business, has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
I came from an operations, you know, kind of engineering, manufacturing background. And I have an MBA, you know, but I'd say that, you know, you have to learn every facet of a business. And if you haven't worked in it, you have to work really hard, research and learn, you know, what is brand, what is marketing, what is the difference between accounts receivable, you know, and finance, you know, and just learning all aspects of business and what people do is really valuable, because when you're in a small company, you have to do everything and you want to do it right. But I think the other thing I learned is don't pretend that you know everything. That's a huge mistake. The older I get, the more experience I get, the more dumb I know that I am. You know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean don't keep striving. And that doesn't mean, you know, any of that. But I think the other thing is that if you love something enough, there's nothing that can stop you from doing it.
Right.
Like you have to die. And, you know, like, I love to do this that much, you know, like, what my wife's like, well, what if this happened? And what if this happened? She's always more risk averse than me. And I'm like, well, I guess that's not going to work. Well, what would you do? I'd say I'd still go do the same thing I'm doing. Why? Because I love it, you know?
Yeah. I love that aspect that you mentioned. I did my research a little bit and I saw your lean black belt, your Six Sigma black belt. So I'm green belt and lean.
Yeah.
And so I hear that Ono circle model of
Yeah.
investigate, learn, study, identify what it is that's happening. I love that.
Yeah. You know, the trouble with the whole lean stuff, now I'm a mechanical engineer, you know, I'm as geeky as they get when it comes down to geek. But the lean is, it's great in many ways, but everybody's got to buy into it, you know, and not everybody buys into it, you know. So you sit there and it can be a challenge, a war of words, you know. But I would say the lean aspects are really wise, and it helps you in software world. You know, everything is little tiny things, you know, like you can't see this stuff and it's all make believe, right? So, yeah, I'm a big fan of, like, that's not how that should be done. Yeah, that's how everybody does it. That doesn't words. Yeah, that just reaffirms what I said, you know. So people around here, we get into some very detailed conversations. And, you know, half the battle in lean and anything that you want, where you want to impress change, it comes down to the words, you know. And, you know, it's the weirdest things. I used to say in software, the words don't matter. And no one really knew what I meant. So it didn't work. But what I did get out of software that's way different than lean
Mhm.
is that uh, when you're contemplating solving a big problem in tech, like, hey, what's the problem in this industry? Well, let's build a marketplace for that, or let's build an app for that. So the tech itself for us as a company is like, you want crypto? Okay. What's the utility of the crypto? That's the hard part.
Right.
Creating the crypto, whatever. But it has more to do with the story that someone tells you.
Right.
And in tech, I never really got that. They always talk about stories, stories, and stories. And but because that's what it is to a tech person. Here's the story. Well, here's how I do my job, right? Blah, 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 blah. I go here, I go this, I gotta ask permission for that. They're telling you a story. And that's a wonderful thing. I wish the Black Belt Six Sigma would appreciate that kind of concept more, where you're interpreting a story as a Black Belt person. Like at the end of the day, they said they want all this stuff. What does it really mean?
Right.
And
Yeah. That's where so my background, I have a master's of business as well, but I have degrees in human resources and psychology. So I led the lean events from the people management, change management side, as opposed to the engineering side. So it's a
yeah,
really interesting thing hearing what you're talking about and identifying and contrasting to my experiences as well.
yeah. HR is probably pretty good at hearing stories too.
Some of them you don't want to hear, but
Yeah, I bet.
So what would you say your goals for the company are in the next 5 years?
We are launching our on M6 platform, and we'd like to have 1 million users.
Okay.
So we call them members. They become customers when they pay us. But yeah, we're building it's kind of like a social media company platform just for your own company. I said Zoom and Facebook had a baby, but if it's just for your company, right? And you have a department feed, and you have different groups you can create, and project groups as a feed. And so it's a different way of thinking. But we created our own emojis. It doesn't seem too sexy, but we created them as families.
Awesome.
And from an HR perspective, you'll appreciate it. It's an engagement element. And what it does, it's a new way of reacting. Right now in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you have very limited choice of reactions. Because reactions aren't really your true feeling. It's kind of like sending somebody a birthday card.
Yeah.
You're hearting it. Well, do you really love them?
You're looking at a color wheel and picking which of the 6.
Right, exactly. And it's like sending them, I'm caring for you, thumbs up, right on. What our reactions are, there's 14 families, there's 86 emojis, they're all unique.
Yeah.
And so when you react on M6, it's a more intentional reaction, and it's actually your true feeling. So, and because we have all of the mapped feelings that people can agree with, 86, changes the game. So it brings people closer together. You have like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way about that. Yeah, it just makes sense. People, when they react to a post on our platform, it's rarely like 100 likes and 30 hearts and then nothing else. It's like 18 different categories were chosen. Like, why would you pick that? Well, I don't know. I mean, Spanish, do they not want to share their feelings? So it creates, by knowing how someone truly felt.
Yeah.
The words don't fucking matter, to be honest with you.
I got to see the UI for that.
Oh, it's actually, I can show you. It's the coolest. It's one of the coolest things I've done.
When we're done recording, I want to see it.
Yeah.
That's got to be amazing.
It is amazing. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. What would you say your biggest learnings have been as an employer?
Learn how to explain things better. Yeah, I think if you can communicate with your people better, if they really can understand what your vision is, then it's easier for them to translate at the end of the day.
Cool.
Yeah. So you have to do that, you have to be more open. Like, I don't know the answer, but this is what I think, and then, sometimes they don't like that, it's like, you're really open. I'm like, yeah, been through a lot, you know,
It's a big differentiator between what I've found to be successful people, very successful people, and somewhat successful people, is that willingness to be open and say, I don't know.
well, and in a way, you want to think about it like this, the biggest learning is, um, I wasn't a sales guy, I wasn't a marketing guy, I wasn't and when you're from operations, you think of those are the fast talkers and you don't really know, hey, half the world's in sales, like, come on, dude. And you don't really understand how you're perceived, like, hey, I'm an engineer, so I'm saw as a geek, but you think geek is cool. So, so there's like this pluralism that exists, as we look at different people, and I think being confident in what you think is, and I'm not saying that to get your way, I'm saying that if you've thought through every scenario on a topic and everyone kind of likes your idea, well, then how far do you go with it, and I think that's part of the biggest challenge of anyone who's starting a company is to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine an actor that goes up and starts being an actor, or someone that goes on stage to American Idol, and you know how they like terrible, like you didn't know you were that terrible, right? Well, and maybe they weren't, but they chose the wrong song, or they could just be terrible, and grandma and my mom love it, but there's, so what are you passionate about? What do you believe in? And then when you put yourself out there and you start saying these things that are different than what everybody else says, that's where you got to realize, like, it's almost like what it's like to be an actor or a comedian, like you're saying stuff that nobody else says, and what's the reactions looking like? And what I found is, like, people are like, yeah, I totally believe that too. More confident. So it's like you're saying things that seem outlandish, and then those people that are attracted to that, they want to work with you.
Right.
But if you said it, they won't be attracted to it, will they?
Right.
So sometimes you have to say things that are out of school, and then it causes a better conversation, and then you start attracting people to your idea.
Yeah, you got to take that first step of stepping out and saying, I'm a little different, and see who gravitates towards it, and they're out there.
Right.
So what advice would you have for your 18-year-old self?
Take out a role. No. I didn't know I was ADHD most of my life. And so in all seriousness, one of the things that I struggled with was, you have, I think this about ADHD people. Well, first, we know that what we know is that our nervous system processes information faster than the speed of light, right?
Certainly feels like it.
No, this is true.
Faster than light. Faster
than the speed of light. Now, you might prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I've
okay
that. Okay. But faster than the speed of light. That's how fast our emotions can change too. That's how fast the expressions on our face can change. That's how fast we feel pain. So understanding that, how fast people think and how stoic we can become in corporate, as and you kind of unwind that. So for me, I mean, I would say emotions matter, and emotions are more powerful than anything. That's what I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, my first exit interview was at a healthcare clinic, and I got diagnosed with ADHD by the chief medical officer in my exit interview. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you probably didn't know it, you know.
no,
Yeah, and most people don't, but then you take Adderall and it's like 2 hours after taking it, you're like, I'm getting a lot done. What the hell? You know, but I do think that there's a different wiring that's there. And so like trust your emotions is part of where I think ADHD people struggle too, because I believe it is your emotions that are more truthful than any words anybody said or any words that you say. You know, so I take time to choose the words that I say. But when a feeling comes over me, I didn't cause that. I mean, I just looked over there and the feeling came over me. Like I didn't do anything.
Right.
Your conscious mind forms the words. So you never know if those are true. But you trust the energy that you read someone and in yourself. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that young people don't understand, but truthfully, and they're trying to figure it out. But it's a big divide between old people and young people, because old people don't get emojis, for example. Like, I don't know what that meant, you know, and young people get emojis.
Yeah.
And they
Intuitively.
Yeah, it's part of who they are, where we were taught like, don't share your feelings, you know.
Right.
So I would say share my feelings and trust your feelings as an 18-year-old.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Last question. Any offers you want us to include in our when we send this out?
What do you mean by offers?
How do you want people to reach out to you? If anyone's interested in working with you?
I would just say reach out to Frank Emsick, Frank at M6Connect.com.
Okay.
It's the letter M, the number 6, connect.com.
Awesome. Make sure I write that down. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing the interview with us today, Frank. And I'm excited to see you get to your 1 million members.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Appreciate it.